I carried him in my arms through storms and sickness, raised him on casseroles, clean laundry, and sacrifices no one saw. But when the wedding invitation came, it was addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. I'm his mother. I'm not Mrs. Johnson. I'm the one who made him. And they erased me, so I packed a gift they didn't expect. And it wasn't wrapped in paper. The envelope arrives on a Tuesday. Thin, cream-colored, fancy-looking. One of those that smells faintly like perfume and paper privilege. I'm sitting at my kitchen table in my soft sage green cardigan and beige slacks, sipping weak coffee, watching the birds pick at my feeder. I open the mailbox expecting bills or maybe one of those junk coupons for oil changes I'll never use. But instead, I see it. A wedding invitation. I hold it like it might break. My son's wedding. My only son. Now I knew it was coming. I'm not blind. I'd seen the photos online, smiling faces, matching flannel shirts in apple orchards. Her hand always stretched out just far enough to show the ring, but no one called. No one said, "Hey Mom, guess what?" No excitement, no warmth, just silence. Until now, I walk back inside, open the envelope gently like it's sacred, to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. That's it. Not Mom. Not mother of the groom. Not Evelyn Johnson. Just Mr. and Mrs. Like I'm a +1 to my late husband. I stare at it. The edges blur. My husband, Robert, passed away 8 years ago. I haven't remarried. Haven't even dated. I've been alone by choice. I raised our son, Mason, mostly by myself. After Robert's stroke, I watched every game, ironed every uniform, stayed up late to fix his science fair volcano. When he forgot it in the garage, I was there. Every time, every milestone, every heartbreak. And now, I'm an afterthought. The phone doesn't ring. No follow-up. No "can we take you dress shopping?" Or "we'd love for you to say a few words at the rehearsal dinner." Just an RSVP card. And a menu choice. I call my sister June. "Did you get one?" I ask. Voice tight. "I did," she says softly. "They put my name, full name." I close my eyes. They didn't put my silence on the line. She knows. She's always known how complicated it's been. Mason's fiancée, Brianna, never liked me much. Too old-fashioned, she said once when I offered to help with centerpieces. Too controlling when I brought homemade jam to their brunch. I never pushed. I never meddled. I thought I was being careful, apparently not careful enough. I try not to let it fester. But it does. The next few days are slow and sharp. Every cup of tea tastes bitter. Every photo of Mason as a boy feels like it's laughing at me. I dig out the baby book, his little handprint in faded blue. First words, Mama, not Mrs. Johnson. Me. I start to wonder if I should even go. What's the point? To sit in the back? To watch someone else be honored while I smile politely from the shadows? But then I think, maybe that's what they want. Maybe they hoped I'd stay quiet. Stay invisible. A footnote. A ghost. And that's when I decide I will go. But I won't just attend. I will show them who I am. I will remind them. Not with anger, but with precision. I begin by writing a letter. Not to Mason, to Brianna. A real one. On paper. It's not rude, it's not dramatic, it's just honest. A list of memories. Things I did for Mason that she might not know. The scraped knees. The late-night emergency room visits. The time I sold my engagement ring to pay for his braces. I sign it simply. The woman who raised the groom. I don't mail it yet, but I keep it in my drawer. The next day, I drive to a stationery shop downtown. I ask the clerk, a sweet girl named Ashley, to help me design custom place cards. She shows me glossy finishes, gold foil lettering, I pick one that's elegant but firm. I have it printed. Mother of the groom, Evelyn Johnson, one for the head table. Then I call the florist. I'd like to order a corsage, I say, for the mother of the groom. Color scheme? I'm not part of the color scheme, I reply. Make it stand out. Next is the gift. They registered for things. Cutlery, towels, a fondue set. I decide to get them something more permanent. I visit a local artist I know from the craft fair. I show her a photo of Mason at 5 years old, sitting on my lap, laughing, missing teeth. She turns it into a delicate, framed sketch in charcoal. I write a note to attach. Before the vows, before the photos, before the promises, there was this. I don't know how they'll take it, but I don't care anymore. This isn't about revenge, not yet. It's about reclaiming space. The day of the wedding arrives. I dress carefully. Pale cream blouse, soft gray skirt, and my sage green cardigan. The same one I wore when Mason graduated college. My hair is neat. My heels are low but polished. At the venue, no one greets me. I walk in alone. The usher blinks at me. Are you with the groom's family? I meet his gaze. I'm his mother. Oh, yes, ma'am. Please, follow me. The ceremony is beautiful. Brianna walks down the aisle in a dress covered in tiny pearls. Mason looks nervous, handsome. He doesn't glance my way. Not once. When they say their vows, I hold my breath. I wonder if he'll mention me, thank me, nod toward the woman who raised him. He doesn't. They're announced as husband and wife. Everyone claps. I don't. At the reception, I find my seat. It's not at the head table. It's in the second row, behind Brianna's uncle. But when no one's looking, I slip my custom place card where it belongs, right next to the groom. I leave the portrait in the gift pile with the others. No flashy wrapping, just a gold ribbon and a note. As the music starts and the dancing begins, I sit back, sip my water and watch. I showed up. I didn't cry, but something inside me says this isn't over. This wasn't just an oversight. It was a message. And now, I've got a message of my own to send. One they'll never forget. I don't sleep much after the wedding. Not because I'm upset, but because my brain is spinning like a record that won't stop. Every word from that night echoes in my head. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, you can just sit anywhere in the second row. Guests only at the microphone. Guests. I wasn't a guest. I was his mother. But apparently, that didn't count for anything anymore. The next morning, I wake up at dawn. My sage green cardigan is still hanging on the back of the chair. I ironed it the day before like I was preparing for something important. Like it mattered. Like I mattered. I pour myself a cup of black coffee and sit at the table with the RSVP card I never sent. The one addressed to the ghost of a marriage. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. That's not who I am. That's not who I've been for the past 8 years. I thought maybe I was overreacting. That's what people like to tell you when you're older. Maybe it was just a mistake. They say, don't take it personally. But this wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. Calculated. I felt it in every part of the wedding. No speech for the mother of the groom. No dance. No thank you. Just a plate of dry chicken and a cold stare from Brianna's mother. My phone buzzes mid-morning. It's my friend Lila from church. Hey Ev, how was the big day? She asks, cheerful as ever. I pause. It was informative, she hums. That doesn't sound good. I wasn't even in the program, I say, staring out the window at a pair of squirrels fighting over sunflower seeds. They didn't put my name on anything, not the seating chart, not the invite, just Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. Like I was a memory. Silence on the line. Then Lila says, honey, you've done too much to be forgotten. I swallow hard. I don't think they forgot me. I think they erased me. That's when I start thinking more clearly. I'm not just going to sit in this kitchen forever. waiting for phone calls and holiday cards that might never come. No, I've done too much for that. I don't want revenge in a petty way. I want justice, respect, a reminder that I exist, and maybe a little sting in the memory. So I start making a list, not a list of wrongs. That would be too easy. I make a list of the things I gave up for Mason, for his life, for his future. I write down the vacation money I used for his baseball camp, the nights I slept in waiting rooms. He had asthma attacks. The scholarships I filled out by hand because he forgot the deadlines. The suit I bought for his first job interview when my own shoes had holes in them. The college tuition I paid with the leftover money from your father's life insurance. I don't do it to guilt myself. I do it to remember. Because clearly someone needs reminding. On the third day I go into the attic. The air smells like cedar and dust. I open a box labeled Mason's Childhood in my handwriting. Faded but steady. Inside are old photos, report cards, the poem he wrote in third grade that started with "My mom is strong like a bear." I laugh softly. I remember that bear costume. Halloween 1997. He cried because the ears were itchy. I find one picture that stops me cold. Mason, in me at his high school graduation. My arm around him. Both of us smiling like the world hadn't learned how to bite yet. He's in his cap and gown. I'm in my sage green cardigan. Same one. I take it downstairs and frame it. That photo goes on my mantle. Center, right where the old family portrait used to be. The one I took down after the wedding. Later that afternoon, I drive to the post office and pick up a large manila envelope. Inside it, I place a copy of that graduation photo, a printed list of all the sacrifices I made, and a note that says, "Before the Miss and Mrs. there was just me. Before your bride there was the woman who stayed. I'm not asking for thanks. I'm reminding you not to forget." I send it to Mason's apartment. Not certified. No tracking. If he throws it out, that's on him. But I'll know I said what I needed to say. The next week passes without a word. No text. No call. Not even a thank you for the framed sketch I left at the wedding. But I keep moving. I start writing again, something I haven't done in years. I pull out an old typewriter from the back of the closet. I start drafting a memoir. Just for me. I call it Uninvited. A mother's story. I don't know if I'll publish it. But the title alone makes me feel like I've already won something. And then, on a quiet Thursday afternoon, the doorbell rings. It's Mason. He stands there in a button-down shirt holding the manila envelope in one hand and a plastic bag in the other. He looks tired, like someone finally shook the fog out of his head. "Hi, Mom," he says. I don't say anything. I step aside and let him in. He sits at the table, glances around the kitchen like it's smaller than he remembers. Then he places the plastic bag on the table. "I brought pie," he says. "It's apple. From the bakery downtown. You forgot my name," I finally say. He flinches. "I didn't mean to." "You forgot me," I say again, firmer now. "On the invitation, at the wedding, in every decision." He looks down at his hands. "Brianna said it was traditional to just send invites with titles. Formal." I raise an eyebrow. So mother of the groom wasn't formal enough. Silence. Then, softly, "I'm sorry, Mom." I let that hang in the air. The apology, the weight of it. It's not everything. But it's something. I raised you to be better than this, I say. Not just to make money or get married. To remember who held your hand before she did. He nods. Ashamed. "I know," he whispers. I sip my tea. He eats a bite of pie. For a moment we sit in silence. Just a mother and a son with a wound between them and years behind them. "I want to make it right," he says finally. "You can't undo what's been done," I reply. "But you can stop pretending I don't exist." He leaves a few minutes later, but not before hugging me at the door. His eyes are wet. He doesn't take the envelope with him. I think he understands it now. It's not for returning, it's for remembering. That night, I light a candle in the kitchen. I set the photo back on the mantel and sit in my chair. Sage green cardigan pulled around my shoulders, blanket over my knees. He's not a boy anymore. But I am still his mother. And I will never let them write me out of the story again. The days after Mason's visit feel quieter, not peaceful quiet, but the kind where something's shifting underneath, like a river cutting slowly through stone. I don't expect miracle. One slice of pie and an apology don't stitch up years of small cuts. And I'm too old to pretend otherwise. But I meant what I said. I don't want revenge. I want acknowledgement. Still, my heart doesn't settle. A week later, my church group gathers for its monthly potluck in the basement hall. I wear a soft cream blouse and my sage green cardigan again. Mostly out of habit now. I bring lemon bars. I always bring lemon bars. But this time, the conversation circles me like I'm a story waiting to be told. Evelyn, I heard about the wedding, Jean says, adjusting her reading glasses. You looked lovely in that photo June posted. I smile. Thank you. And the invite? What was that about? She adds, her voice dropping. Here it comes. I keep my tone even. They addressed it to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. Eyes widen around the table. But your Miss Johnson is, Linda stammers, dead. I finish gently. Yes, has been for years. There's a long pause before someone mutters. Shameful. I don't need their pity, but it helps. It reminds me I'm not crazy. Later, while we're stacking chairs, Lila pulls me aside. Ev, I'm just going to say it, she says. You should have been front row, hand-picked flowers, center of the toast, not second row behind the uncle who chews like a goat. I snort. I needed that laugh. But what do I do now? I ask, a little more tired than I mean to sound. What do you do when your child forgets you on purpose? She thinks for a second, then looks me straight in the eye. You remind them, loudly, if you. That night, I take out my journal, the same one I've used for years to collect grocery lists, birthdays, old recipes I clipped from magazines, and I start a new section. I call it, Things They Wouldn't Have Without Me. I write, you wouldn't have a college degree if I hadn't taken that overnight job. You wouldn't have passed math without those flashcard games I made. You wouldn't have your first car if I hadn't sold Dad's tools. Each line makes my back straight, but the last one I write with a sting in my fingers. You wouldn't have had a wedding at all if I hadn't given you your first sense of family. Because that's the truth. No one dares say aloud. Weddings aren't built on cake and flowers. They're built on years of someone else putting you first, quietly, willingly. And I did that. I built him, brick by brick. The next day I call the pastor. I'd like to schedule a talk, I say. A sermon? He asks. No, I reply. A talk. Just 5 minutes at the next community night? I have something I need to say. He agrees. I don't tell anyone what I'm doing. Not June, not Lila. Not even Mason. When community night rolls around, I show up wearing something different, a soft navy cardigan this time. Not my usual sage green. I don't want to look like the version of me they've overlooked. I want to look like the version they forgot was still sharp, still strong. When my name is called, I walk to the little podium in the fellowship hall. About 50 people sit before me. Familiar faces. Women who watched Mason grow up, men who offered to fix my gutters after Robert passed. Teenagers who still call me Miss Evelyn, even though they're taller than I am now. I take a deep breath. Good evening, I begin, voice steady. Some of you know I've had a change in my family recently. My son got married, polite claps. But what many of you don't know, I continue, is that I was nearly left out of the entire thing. No mention in the invite, No seat of honor, not even my name. A few murmurs ripple through the room. I'm not here to complain. I'm here to remind every person in this room, and maybe myself, that motherhood isn't something you discard once a boy grows into a man. It's not a title you get to erase with a new one. I pause. Let the silence hold for a second. I raised that boy. I gave him everything I had, and I've decided that I don't need anyone's permission to remember that. By the time I finish, I see tears in more than a few eyes. One woman dabs her cheek with a napkin. Another claps before anyone else does. It isn't about applause. It's about truth. Afterward, people come up, hug me, tell me they wish they'd said something when their own kids overlooked them. But one face in the back surprises me. Mason. He's standing by the door, hands in his pockets, eyes wet. He didn't clap, he didn't interrupt, he just listened. Later, as I walk out to my car, he follows. "Mom," he says softly. "I didn't know you were going to speak." "I didn't plan to," I reply, unlocking the door. "But it was time." He nods. "I deserved it." I don't answer that. He already knows. "I saw the photo," he adds. "The one you framed. Graduation." I looked happy. "You were," I say. He shuffles, nervous. "I've been thinking, we still have a wedding album being put together. Brianna's picking photos for it. Maybe you can come over and help choose." I pause. It's a start. Late, maybe, but a start. "We'll see," I say. "Okay," he replies. He hugs me again. This time, longer. This time, like he means it. When I get home, I light a candle in the kitchen. I sit in my favorite chair, and I open my journal. Under the list titled "Things They Wouldn't Have Without Me," I add a new one. "The backbone to face a crowd, and speak when your voice shakes." Because sometimes, reclaiming your space means standing alone first, and letting them come find you afterward. The days after Mason's visit feel quieter, not peaceful quiet, but the kind where something's shifting underneath, like a river cutting slowly through stone. I don't expect miracles. One slice of pie and an apology don't stitch up years of small cuts, and I'm too old to pretend otherwise. But I meant what I said. I don't want revenge. I want acknowledgement. Still, my heart doesn't settle. A week later, my church group gathers for its monthly potluck in the basement hall. I wear a soft cream blouse and my sage green cardigan again. Mostly out of habit now. I bring lemon bars. I always bring lemon bars. But this time, the conversation circles me like I'm a story waiting to be told. "Evelyn, I heard about the wedding," Jean says, adjusting her reading glasses. "You looked lovely in that photo June posted." I smile. "Thank you. And the invite? What was that about?" she adds, her voice dropping. "Here it comes." I keep my tone even. "They addressed it to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson." Eyes widen around the table. "But your Mrs. Johnson is," Linda stammers. "Dead," I finish gently. "Yes, has been for years." There's a long pause before someone mutters, "Shameful." I don't need their pity, but it helps. It reminds me I'm not crazy. Later, while we're stacking chairs, Layla pulls me aside. "Ev, I'm just going to say it," she said. "You should have been front row. Hand-picked flowers. Center of the toast, not second row behind the uncle who chews like a goat." I snort. I needed that laugh. But what do I do now? I ask, a little more tired than I mean to sound. "What do you do when your child forgets you on purpose?" She thinks for a second, then looks me straight in the eye. "You remind them, loudly, if you must." That night, I take out my journal, the same one I've used for years to collect grocery lists, birthdays, old recipes I clipped from magazines, and I start a new section. I call it Things They Wouldn't Have Without Me. I write, "You wouldn't have a college degree if I hadn't taken that overnight job. You wouldn't have passed math without those flashcard games I made. You wouldn't have your first car if I hadn't sold Dad's tools." Each line makes my back straight, but the last one I write with a sting in my fingers. "You wouldn't have had a wedding at all if I hadn't given you your first sense of family." Because that's the truth no one dares say aloud. Weddings aren't built on cake and flowers, they're built on years of someone else putting you first, quietly, willingly. And I did that. I built him, brick by brick. The next day, I call the pastor. "I'd like to schedule a talk," I say. "A sermon?" he asks. "No," I reply. "A talk. Just 5 minutes at the next community night. I have something I need to say." He agrees. I don't tell anyone what I'm doing. Not June. Not Lila. Not even Mason. When community night rolls around, I show up wearing something different. A soft navy cardigan this time, not my usual sage green. I don't want to look like the version of me they've overlooked. I want to look like the version they forgot was still sharp, still strong. When my name is called, I walk to the little podium in the fellowship hall. About 50 people sit before me, familiar faces. Women who watched Mason grow up. Men who offered to fix my gutters after Robert passed. Teenagers who still call me Miss Evelyn. Even though they're taller than I am now, I take a deep breath. "Good evening," I begin, voice steady. "Some of you know I've had a change in my family recently. My son got married." Polite clap. "But what many of you don't know," I continue, "is that I was nearly left out of the entire thing. No mention in the invite. No seat of honor, not even my name." A few murmurs ripple through the room. "I'm not here to complain," I say. "I'm here to remind every person in this room, and maybe myself, that motherhood isn't something you discard once a boy grows into a man. It's not a title you get to erase with a new one." I pause. Let the silence hold for a second. I raised that boy. I gave him everything I have, and I've decided that I don't need anyone's permission to remember that. By the time I finish, I see tears in more than a few eyes. One woman dabs her cheek with a napkin. Another claps before anyone else does. It isn't about applause, it's about afterward people come up, hug me, tell me they wish they'd said something when their own kids overlooked them. But one face in the back surprises me. Mason. He's standing by the door, hands in his pockets, eyes wet. He didn't clap. He didn't interrupt. He just listened. Later, as I walk out to my car, he follows. "Mom," he says softly, "I didn't know you were going to speak." "I didn't plan to," I reply, unlocking the door. "But it was time." He nods. "I deserved it." I don't answer that. He already knows. "I saw the photo," he asked. "The one you framed." "Graduation." I looked happy. "You were." He shuffles, nervous. "I've been thinking we still have a wedding album being put together. Brianna's picking photos for it. Maybe you can come over and help choose." I pause. It's a start. Late, maybe. But a start. "We'll see," I say. "Okay," he replies. He hugs me again, this time, longer. This time, like he means it. When I get home, I light a candle in the kitchen. I sit in my favorite chair, and I open my journal. Under the list titled Things They Wouldn't Have Without Me, I add a new one. The backbone to face a crowd and speak when your voice shakes. Because sometimes reclaiming your space means standing alone first, and letting them come find you afterward. Would you like to continue with part 4? You said, part 4, ChatGPT said, "Here is part 4 of the story. I got a wedding invitation addressed only to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. I'm his mother." So I told in first person using simple English, American names, and keeping to the required word count, approx 1700 words. I don't rush over to Mason's house after he invites me to look through wedding photos. I wait 3 days, not out of spite. I just need to decide how I want to walk in, as someone desperate to be included, or as someone who knows she deserves to be. I choose the second. When I finally do go, I wear my navy cardigan again, the one from community night, not the sage green one that belongs to another version of me, the one who sat 2 rows back like a stranger. Mason opens the door with a cautious smile. Glad you came. I nod and step inside. Their apartment is neat, almost too neat. There's a stack of photo proofs spread out on the dining table, and a laptop open to a shared folder labeled Wedding Memories. I notice the air smells like vanilla and lemon cleaner, like someone scrubbed the place hoping it might also wash away guilt. Brianna isn't home. He tells me she's at a dress fitting. Her cousin is getting married next month. I wonder if that bride's mother got to be in the front row. I don't ask. We sit across from each other, the pictures between us like little windows into a party I never really got to be part of. Most of them are standard. The dress reveal, the groom's handshake with the father-in-law, the first kiss, the sparkler send-off. I point to one of Mason laughing near the cake. You always smile like that when you're nervous, I say. He blinks. You remember that? I remember everything, I reply. He swipes to the next one. It's a wide shot of the guests during the vows. You can see everyone clearly, the bridesmaids, the groomsmen, even Brianna's grandmother, seated with a handkerchief at her lips. But not me. I'm not in it. Mason notices too. You were off to the left, he says quietly. I remember looking for you, but you were behind a post. I didn't move, I tell him. That's where they told me to sit. He looks ashamed again, like each picture is a new way to see just how far he left me out. Then he opens a different folder. There are some unused ones, he says. The photographer sent them just in case. He clicks through a few shots and lands on one of me standing alone near the reception arch. I'm looking off to the side, arms crossed, face unreadable. My sage green cardigan stands out in a sea of navy, gray, and pastel. He pauses there. That one's good, he says. I don't say anything. I let him sit with that truth. I want to include it, he adds, in the album. Why? Because you were there, he said, and because you matter. There it is, not a speech, not a grand apology, just the words I needed weeks ago, months ago. I won't let anyone erase you again, he adds, not even me. It doesn't undo everything, but it's something. We spend the next hour going through more photos. We laugh at the one where the best man tripped. We both cringe at how sweaty the groom's shirt got during the first dance. But then I ask, casually, did Brianna know how the invitations were addressed? He hesitates. Yeah, he says. She said it was traditional. And you? I didn't push back, he admits. I thought it would be easier. I nod, letting that land where it needs to. Sometimes easy makes cowards of people who should have been brave, I say. He doesn't argue. When I leave, he walks me to the door. You're coming to the cousin's wedding, right? He asks. If I'm invited, I reply. You are. This time. Properly, he says with a sheepish smile. I get in my car and sit for a moment before turning the key. Back home, I pull out my journal again and flip to the page titled Things They Wouldn't Have Without Me. Below the last entry, I add, the wisdom to own your mistakes and fix what's been broken. Then, I turn the page. I start a new list. Things I'm still becoming, because this isn't about just being a mother anymore. It's about being me, Evelyn, a woman who raised a son and found herself again after being written off. I write, a woman who speaks up, a woman who no longer accepts silence, a woman who walks into rooms like she deserves to be there, a woman who doesn't wait for a thank you to feel worthy. And then I pause and add, a woman who forgives but never forgets. The next day, a new envelope shows up at my door, thick cardstock, embossed letters. This time it reads, Ms. Evelyn Johnson, alone, direct, accurate. Inside is the invitation to the cousin's wedding. Second row again, but this time, the seat is marked Mother of the Groom. Funny how much weight a few words carry when people finally get them right. I hang the invite on my fridge, not because I'm eager to go, but because I want to remember that even after being dismissed, erased, or ignored, sometimes if you hold your ground long enough, people learn how to see you again. And this time, I'll walk in with my head high. Not for them, for me. It's funny how being acknowledged, truly acknowledged, makes you notice how many times you weren't. After I get the second wedding invitation, addressed just to me, properly, I realize it's the first time in years someone in my family got my name right without attaching me to a man. No Mrs. Johnson. No +1. Just Evelyn. And I stand there in my kitchen, holding that little piece of cardstock, with a tightness in my chest I didn't know I still carried. I taped the invitation next to the first one, the one that said Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. Side by side, they look like a before and after, like proof that names matter, that I matter. The cousin's wedding is still a few weeks away, but already Mason is texting me pictures of the venue, updates about catering, photos of his suit. Brianna sends me a recipe for peach cobbler, asking if I think it's too sweet. It's like they're slowly trying to fold me into the fabric they once cut me out of. One night, Mason calls and says, Hey, Brianna wants to meet you for coffee. Just you two. She said she owes you that much. I raise an eyebrow, even though he can't see it. She did, huh? Yeah, she's trying, Mom. Tell her I'll meet her, I say. But only if she calls me Evelyn, when she sees me, not Mrs. Johnson, not your mom, Evelyn. There's a pause on his end. Okay, I'll tell her. We meet at a little coffee shop downtown, with brick walls and Edison bulbs that make the place look warmer than it really is. I arrive early. I wear my navy cardigan again, the one I wore at community night, and Mason's apartment. It's my armor now. Brianna walks in 10 minutes late, holding a purse the size of a suitcase, and wearing heels too high for comfort. She scans the room and finds me, hesitating only a moment, before coming over. Hi, Evelyn, she says. I nod. Hello. We order drinks, coffee for me, some oat milk, vanilla concoction for her, and sit at a corner table near the window. She fidgets with her straw. I wait. Finally, she sighs. I didn't mean to exclude you. Not intentionally. Intent doesn't undo impact, I say softly. She nods. I know. I just thought you'd understand. You've been married. You'd know how weddings go. The planning, the pressure. I take a long sip of my coffee before answering. Yes, I've been married. I've also buried my husband, raised a child on my own, worked nights, clipped coupons and made everything stretch farther than it should have. So yes, I know pressure. But I also know how not to erase the people who got you there. She looks down. I didn't think you'd be that affected. Because you never asked. Another pause. Her lips tighten. Then she says something I don't expect. You scared me. I blink. Come again? You're strong. You're steady. And I wasn't sure how to fit you in. You've always had a presence. I thought if I didn't control it, you'd overshadow me. I take a moment to process that. To be feared for being present. You didn't have to shrink me to shine, I tell her. I know that now. She whispers. There's silence between us, but it's not hostile. It's something softer, like air after a thunderstorm. She clears her throat. I'd like to ask you something. Go ahead. For the cousin's wedding, Would you stand with me during the mother-son dance? Not in the spotlight, but near, just as someone who knows how to raise a good man. I don't cry, not there, in that cafe, but I feel something break loose in me. That depends, I say. On what? On whether or not you'll ever call me just the groom's mother again. She smiles. Small, guilty, and hopeful. Never again. I finish my coffee and stand. Then yes, I'll stand beside you. We don't hug, not yet, but we nod at each other with something close to mutual understanding. When I get home, I go to my journal. I flip past the things they wouldn't have without me list. And the things I'm still becoming page. I create a new section. Things I never asked for, but deserve. And I write. A real seat. At the table, an invitation that spelled my name right, an apology with eye contact, coffee without pretending everything's fine, respect, not pity. Then I set the journal down and pull out the framed photo of Mason I had nearly packed away, the one from graduation. I wipe the dust off it and place it back on the mantle. I'm not healing for him, I'm healing for me, and this time, I'm not asking anyone's permission to do it. The wedding of Brianna's cousin takes place on a bright Saturday afternoon, the kind of day where the sun kisses your shoulders and the breeze carries the smell of grass, flowers, and fresh beginnings. I take my time, getting ready. I don't fuss with anything too flashy, but I do fix my hair a little more carefully than usual. I wear a soft beige dress I hadn't pulled out since Robert's memorial, and my favorite earrings, silver teardrops. Mason gave me one Mother's Day long ago, when he was still learning what grown-up love looked like. And over it all, I wear my navy cardigan. It's become something of a second skin now, a reminder of who I am and what I've reclaimed. When I arrive, the ushers guide me toward the reserved seating. But this time, it's different. There's a white card placed carefully on the second row, right near the aisle. Evelyn Johnson, mother of the groom, printed clear as day, in a lovely script, not handwritten as an afterthought. I press my fingers lightly over it, like it's a fragile treasure. Mason comes over shortly after. He's already in his suit, light gray with a blue tie. He hugs me, firm, real. You look beautiful, he says. I smile. So do you. Handsome, I mean. We both laugh, a little awkward but a little easier than before. Brianna waves to me from across the venue. She doesn't hesitate. She doesn't look uncertain. She mouths, "Thank you," and I nod. The ceremony is simple, sweet. Vows exchanged beneath a wooden arch strung with cream-colored flowers, and baby's breath. I watch the bride's mother hold her hand through the nervous moments. I see the father wipe a tear, and I sit in that second row, tall and unbothered, no longer behind a post, no longer invisible. At the reception, Mason pulls me aside after the dinner plates are cleared. "Hey," he says, "Ma, the mother-son dance." I raise an eyebrow. "That's not yours to do this time." "I know," he grins. "But Brianna asked her cousin if she'd mind sharing the floor for a second." I blink. "Sharing?" He nods toward the DJ booth, where the MC is already making the announcement. And now, a special moment, the MC says. Not just for the bride and her mother, but for a woman who helped raise a man strong enough to admit when he's wrong, and brave enough to make it right. I feel every pair of eyes turn toward me. Mason holds out his hand. "You're not getting out of this, are you?" I whisper. "Not a chance," he says. I step onto the dance floor with him. The music starts. Something soft, classic. I think it's Nat King Cole. We sway slowly. No one claps, no one talks. They just watch. And for the first time in years, I don't feel like I'm being judged. I feel seen. Midway through, Mason leans in. "I never told you this, but Brianna wasn't sure she could win you over. She didn't need to win me, I murmur. Just remember I existed. She does now, he said, and so do I. After the dance, guests begin clapping. It's not wild or loud, just a warm ripple of respect, of understanding. Brianna's cousin pulls me into a hug. That was beautiful, she says. I hope I'm like you when I'm old. I smile. Just remember where you come from, and say thank you more than you think you need to. Later, while others drink and dance and laugh, I find a quiet bench beneath a tree strung with fairy lights. The evening has slipped into that soft golden hour, where the world glows and time seems to hush. Mason sits beside me. You okay? Better than I thought I'd be. I'm proud of you, he says. I look at him, surprised. Why? For not letting us get away with it, for reminding us. I exhale. I'm proud of you too, for listening, for trying. He takes my hand, his rough grown man hand that used to be so tiny in mine, and squeezes. I want you to come over next Sunday, he says. Brianna's making pot roast. I make better pot roast, I smirk. Exactly, he grins. She wants lessons. I laugh, long and loud. It's about time someone respected my seasoning. When I get home that night, I don't feel tired, I feel full. I sit at the kitchen table, open my journal again. I start one last page. What they finally gave me back, I write. My name, my place, my dignity, my voice, my joy. And I circle that last one, because I realize now joy doesn't always arrive with trumpets. Sometimes it slips in quietly, in a folded name card, a slow dance, a seat in the light. And after all this time, I'm not going to let anyone take it from me again. It's been 4 weeks since the second wedding, since the second trance. Mason and Brianna invited me over again for Sunday dinner. And this time, it wasn't out of guilt. It wasn't performative. It was real. They'd cleared out a whole corner of the kitchen and labeled it Mom's Space. Brianna even bought a new slow cooker, just for my pot roast experiment. And when I opened the pantry, I found the bay leaves I like, the good salt, and 3 jars of the jam I used to make. Mason is a boy, stocked and waiting like I belonged, because now I do. That night after dinner, Brianna handed me a wrapped box with a gold bow. I raised an eyebrow. Don't worry, she said with a smile. It's not another invitation. Inside was a leather photo album. On the cover it said, Family, Chosen, and Earned. I opened it to the first page. There I was, in my navy cardigan, standing under twinkle lights, dancing with my son at the cousin's wedding. The caption underneath read, A mother doesn't need permission to matter, she just does. I couldn't speak. I just touched the photo with my fingers, like it might disappear if I blinked too hard. That album sits on my coffee table now, right beside my journal. And every time I pass it, I feel something different than I used to. Not grief, not bitterness, but strength. Because I didn't beg. I didn't scream. I didn't burn bridges just to feel heard. I did something better. I reminded them quietly, but with unwavering steadiness, who I am. I reminded them that I don't fade just because the spotlight isn't pointed at me. I reminded them that I'm not an accessory to someone else's life story. And in doing so, I made space for myself, where they tried to pretend I didn't exist. A few days later, I'm sitting on my porch, with a cup of tea when a neighbor walks by. Sandra, a kind woman in her 60s, with a cane and a loud voice. She waves. Heard you were the star of the dance floor. I laugh. News travels fast, huh? She walks up the steps and leans against the rail. It's nice to see you smiling again. I was starting to think they forgot who raised that boy. They almost did, I say. But I help them remember. She nods. That's the trick with kids. You don't yell it into their ears, you carve it into their memory. We sip tea and watch the wind ruffle the trees. The sky is clear, the air smells like honeysuckle. Sandra sighs. Wish I'd done what you did. My daughter's wedding came and went, and I got a text the next morning saying thanks. I look over at her. It's not too late. For what? To teach them how to see you again. She stares out at the road for a long time. Maybe you're right, and I hope she tries. I really do. Because no mother should be left behind in a life she helped build. That night, I go through my journal one last time. The page titled Things I'm Still Becoming has grown long and beautiful. The final line reads, I am not a guest in my own family. I am the foundation. And then I close the cover, take a deep breath, and finally feel peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from silence or surrender, but the kind you get when you stand in the truth long enough that the world has no choice but to adjust around you. So when the next event comes, a birthday, a holiday, maybe even a baby shower down the road, I won't wonder if I'll be included. I'll show up, not as Mrs. Johnson, not as someone's plus one, but as Evelyn, the mother, the matriarch, the woman who didn't ask for her place. She took it back, and now she's never giving it up again.